small space balcony garden. Really micro space. A little bit of thermal mass, small garden bed, blueberry, apple, citrus, lemon verbena, and a nice variegated mint. Easy little bit of gardening. There's an actual tea mint back up there. Easy bit of garden, easy to attend to, small space, works well. We can do this on a balcony, we can do this anywhere. Small space gardening, part of the evolution of the suburbs. This little space is just a wonderland of permaculture diversity. There's probably the highest density of plant stacking we've seen on any location. This is really urban permaculture in its most extreme expression. We have little ponds, flows of water. The space inside looks at the space outside directly. An infallible technique of making sure everything is attended to because you can see it from your personal inner space of the house. Vertical stacking on walls, trellises, little gardens, edges, pot plants, trees, climbers, herbs, medicinals. The whole thing stacked into very, very small area, very small space, extended micro edge. This is something that we can learn from. Here is the productivity in the urban landscape that is only taking up 3% in volume area production compared to agriculture. 97% of agriculture is a waste of time, waste of space, waste of energy. This is the productive space, the micro space. Nothing beats the square metre production, energy efficiency of the urban micro space. The babaco, often called a mountain pawpaw. It's very much like a bland pawpaw, papaya to eat, but very nice as a sweetened fruit and a salad fruit. And it grows from a cutting, but occupies very little space on the ground because it's vertically productive. So great small space productive tree, and that's what we need in urban systems. We need to be able to prune trees so they take up very little ground space and produce higher. Tamarillo, the tree tomato. Again, this is something that's very productive in that it takes up small space on the ground, quite a tall vertical stem above my head, the fruit up in a small canopy above me. Great small space productive tree. Here's a sneaky little corner. We've got our roof water tank, our first flush inverter, and here's our solar panel electricity, solar electric feedback to the grid inverter. So I have all kinds of energy capture, energy exchange systems right here, and a grey water filtration tank right next to that. So we've got a little practical area all squeezed into a corner here in an area that's least useful and most shady. Functional elements in a good place. Great design choices. There goes the water pump. Right. So there's a little bit of water going on somewhere. Overflow from the tank runs down the pipe, and then we have this little journey of discovery into our drain here, through the drain, under the footpath, and then we discover out the other side into a slotted pipe here, underneath the mulch like a micro swale, running down through our garden. Water-wise gardening, we don't need to use a lot of water, we just need to use a lot of common sense design. A lot of people don't understand roof water catchment into tanks. There are leaf litter diverters here, so leaves get diverted before they get to the tank, and even the tank itself still has a screen on it, so the water stays clean in the tank. And then first flush diverters just take the first water off the roof and divert it to a garden. There goes our water pump again, running on solar power. So This is as sustainable as you can get in a high density suburb, running in a conventional system where normal appliances are part of normal life, and gardens can be the subsidy back into a more sustainable life. Here we've got fruiting vines over a pergola, allowing summer shade and winter light penetration as they lose their deciduous leaves. Framing the view, a beautiful way to use productive vertical space. I just love this little element. Everybody wants food self-sufficiency, some food self-reliance in these systems, but also request a little bit of sanctuary, a little bit of wilderness, a little bit of connection to the wild and nature. And we all like that, and we all deserve that. And here we've got this beautiful little natural water flow going into this little micro natural pond. Productive plants there, but a lovely little natural flow of water. And windows right there. You can sit and look at it from inside, or you can be working out here, interacting with the garden, and any time you can just look over and feel like you're in the wild, feel like you're in nature. This is lovely therapeutic elements that make gardening all that bit more special. You're not just getting productive mulch and composty type gardenings, you're getting this connection back to the patterns of nature and the wilderness. We're all part of it. It's central to everything that we do. Here we are in a bushland setting with an urban classic design, the herb spiral. A spiral planned in bed, raised in the middle, gradually spiralling down to a little pond at the bottom, dry plants at the top, in the most well-drained position, slightly drier conditions on the way down, and plants planted in their appropriate spots that they like, until we get right down to the plants that like damp conditions at the bottom. Small space, wrapping up the edge, really efficient, and it's made so that you can reach the middle without stepping on the garden from all sides. Classic permaculture design, the herb spiral. A jasmine hedge. Beautiful hedges, functional, green, nice elements, but fedges are better. Here, we can cut off a hedge like this, and we can put in a fedge, a food hedge with productive plants, not only functional, but also productive and nutritious in what they produce. Well, what a scene. Here we are. I've got a beautiful lemon in front of me. I've got aquatic plants in the pond, fish in the pond, vegetables behind, a persimmon tree up over my shoulder. It's all happening. And what's interesting that is happening that we don't notice and often don't realise is at the bottom of the pond, at the bottom of the old swimming pool, we've got soil creation, and that is a byproduct of this whole event. And every now and again we can take out the really high quality soil at the bottom of the pond, which is anaerobic, has no air in it, bring it up, put it through the compost and convert it to fertiliser. So there's all these exchanges and cycles and events that we can take advantage of and harvest a byproduct of really healthy food. Fantastic. Yeah, a hook and a line, and I'd have a meal out of there in no time. And it wouldn't be long before we just gain more and more and more food out of a system like this. Not only growing fish, but it's also growing vegetables on the side here. We've got vegetable gardens, chickens, we've got fruit trees. We're overlooking the whole system from the house. This is the ultimate soundproofing roost and noise prevention system, designed by Penny Pyatt of Permaculture North Sydney.
This chicken house is quite unique because it is made of straw bales turned on their side, and it is designed to meet the needs of the chicken. Chickens like to get up high at night, they like to roost. So inside this chicken house, it's quite high, as you can see, and there is a very high perch up the top that they can roost on and get out of the way of foxes. So it's perfect for the chicken, they're quite happy. The other unique thing about this house is because it's straw bale, it is really well insulated. So it's cool in summer, it's warm in winter, and more importantly, it muffles the noise of crowing roosters, which is a huge issue. So here we are right in the middle of a densely populated suburban area, and we could have roosters in here that would crow early hours of the morning, late at night, and wouldn't disturb anybody because nobody can hear them.
Okay, test pilot rooster entering the cockpit. No, Penny?
And I'm going to close him in.
No, you want me to crow? Rosina has taken a classic victory garden, a garden that was promoted in the Second World War in England, with chickens and garden interacting over 6 months. So the chickens fertilise the soil, and then you garden behind them, and they clean up the garden that's now out of production.
So this is my design. And it works really well. It's a 2-pen system, and at the moment the chooks are living in this area here. It's the winter time, and I just lift up this little pen peg here, and I open this up, and I've got 2 pen pegs, and they just climb through there and get in. I don't have to even touch them or disturb them at all. And they'll stay here for 2 or 3 months while the garden grows. I will feed them from that garden and myself. And then when it's finished, I'll just open up that little corner that I showed you, and they'll just go through there and demolish the whole lot for me in about two or 3 days. It's all flat.
Here we are in a food forest canopy section of the garden. In summer this is beautiful shade. In spring it's a plethora of flowers overhead. And all through the year there's different fruits available. It's Mediterranean, so we have all sorts: citrus, pear, plums, apple, figs, apricots, macadamia even. We have guavas, there's grapes, and even avocados. Mulberries over the chicken pen. There's a real diversity of fruit trees here, and microclimate created to take it towards the temperate in some places on one edge and towards the subtropics on another. The Mediterranean, a great area to garden a mixture of fruit, to have canopy shade in summer, and as the autumn comes in like now, you get a drop of leaves and the winter sun's released into the garden and warm it back up. Wonderful system to live in and feel comfortable and have a good healthy supply of diverse high quality fruit trees and product. Roof water collection into a tall water tank, good quality rainwater, captured almost at the height of the roof gutter itself. So a real tall stack tank, picking up maximum amount of water, taking up minimum space. Really good element to include, more or less drought proofs this garden. Here we are, an urban garden just 2 years old, just over 2 years, and all of this production, all of this potential, more than enough food for 1, 2 or even 3 people. And now the owner's moving into chickens, the free range chickens through their urban food forest. The swells are working fine. A perfect casual example of how we can produce our own needs in the suburbs with very little effort, just good design as the process. It's hard to imagine the guilds that are potentially beneficial to each other. There are so many combinations of plants here. There are scented plants like the lavender behind me. Here's a fruiting fig, There's tansy here, underneath the fig. And right next to it's rhubarb, backed up by a ground cover of nasturtium, which is a good edible leaf tonic. There's food everywhere, but there's combinations of plants that seem to be working well together. Now here's something you wouldn't see in the average backyard. Well, not very often. This is a rocket stove water heater with a very small amount of wood. It can just be stick fuel from a coppice tree that regrows sticks all the time. You don't have to kill any trees. A very small amount of wood, about 1/5 that would be normally used to heat hot water, in this rocket stove, vented down with a long chimney. All the wood gases are burnt off, so very little smoke, if any at all, comes out the chimney. 18 metres of copper pipe, coiled through a 44-gallon drum, about 200 litres of water. That's the thermal mass. The stove is vented past the thermal mass of water, heats up the copper pipe in the middle, which has got the water running through it for your hot water, for your sinks, for your showers. Very small amount of wood, no smoke, no pollution, can fit in anywhere. You can use this for cooking or heating your hot water, or even a thermal mass bed like in China. Traditional kangs will use rocket stove technology, heating underneath a thermal mass, a stone or ceramic bed base. Old technology, works good, anytime, no obsolescence in this system. Nasturtium. It's a good tonic. A healthy thing to eat a nasturtium leaf and a flower every day. A little bit peppery, not too unpleasant at all, lovely. A great addition to a salad. A good tonic to just browse on in the garden. And a beautiful looking flower. Here's a nice little legume that a lot of people have heard about. This is alfalfa, sometimes called lucerne. It's a perennial, it keeps growing. And here you can see it's being cut. That's because it's a good mulch plant. It's fixing nitrogen in the soil. It's got nitrogen in the body of the plant. It's not really big. Fits in the garden and can be a green manure fertiliser that's continuously added to the garden. Free fertiliser growing where we garden. Another great system. Here's a little volunteer plant, something that could be called a weed. But this is an edible weed and a very beneficial one, a medicinal plant. This is Goda-Cola. It's full of minerals and it's a great brain food. So, a little bit of Goda-Cola every now and again. Fresh, out of your garden. It's a passive little ground cover. Works fine as a great free interactive. This little herb Robert, Geranium robertinum. Well, an insignificant looking little plant, but this is one of the plants that has a very special quality. It oxygenates the cells of the body and raises the potential of any herbal remedies that you are taking. Very few herbs do this. Oxygenate the cells of the body. A great herb. Grows just like a weed in your garden. Here we have a raised garden made out of roofing iron, and it's these can operate in two ways. This can be an open bed to the ground as a raised tank garden, easy access, but it can also be a sealed tank with a water tank at the bottom. So the bottom of the garden is full of water with a screen in between the water and the soil, and that becomes a wicking bed. And that's an incredibly water efficient garden because very little water is used. It comes up with condensation up through the soil and can be recycled within the garden itself. A great little system for saving water. Essential for dry climates. Here's a worm tower. And it's a vertical worm farm. Just a big pipe going down into the garden. Holes in the side, open to the bottom. the worms only live in organic matter, so they won't go into the soil. These are compost worms, not earthworms. But the byproduct is these have great fertilizing qualities for the garden and create a compost and a worm juice that gives us free fertilizer. Fantastic convenience for a home garden or an urban garden, and here it's a community garden demonstration. With these compost worm towers, the miniature vertical worm farm is in the garden. They don't leave there, they don't go through the soil. They're being well fed, they stay right there where there's high quality organic matter. And here, the juices and the compost fertilise the garden in situation. You don't have to separate your worm farm from your garden. Great design.